We have more kind of cover-up from the media being displayed in a CBS interview on 60 Minutes. That news program has been caught appearing to cover for Kamala Harris by editing one of her most incoherent answers. This is what went to air.
But it seems that Prime Minister Netanyahu is not listening.
We're not going to stop pursuing what is necessary for the United States to be clear about where we stand on the need for this war to end.
And this was the original without the edits.
But it seems that Prime Minister Netanyahu is not listening.
Well, Bill, the work that we have done has resulted in a number of movements in that region by Israel that were very much prompted by or a result of many things, including our advocacy for what needs to happen in the region.
You know, you see this and you just wonder why people don't trust the media anymore, don't trust our leaders at all. Why are they covering her, for her, I should say, but also why is she so bad?
Well, I suppose I'll take the first question first. I mean, the reason that CBS News is doing this is that the corporate media here in America, CBS News being a prime example, is no longer journalists. They're no longer doing the work of journalism in any meaningful sense of the term. These people are fundamentally ideological activists. They are not engaged in the quintessential fact-finding, truth-seeking mission that once upon a time defined the old shoe leather journalists, people like Bob Woodward back in the day here when it came to the Richard Nixon Watergate scandal. You know, CBS News is actually a perfect example because around the same time that they were doing that astounding edit for that word salad of all word salads, you know, frankly, Gabriella, I actually don't really like using the term word salad because a salad can actually be quite delicious. I prefer to refer to that as a word turd sandwich or something like that because that really is quite more descriptively, I think, what it is. But CBS News is also the exact same outlet that just had this whole Maoist struggle session in real time with Ta-Nehisi Coates, the fundamentalist charlatan, the wokester of all wokesters here, who wrote a viciously anti-Israel book, his new book called The Message. He was challenged in fairly modest fashion by a morning anchor by the name of Tony Dokapel, who himself converted to Judaism. His two daughters live in Israel. And he basically said, oh, you know what? You didn't include anything here about Hamas, Hezbollah in the book. Why is that? And apparently the fact that he was challenging this renowned Black author, Ta-Nehisi Coates, on his viciously anti-Israel, pro-terrorist, pro-jihad book was such a big deal that CBS did an all-staff meeting. Tony Dokapel, the interviewer, was apparently crying tears. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. This is CBS News. Once upon a time, that was one of the big three outlets here in the United States. It was CBS, NBC, ABC. You want the nightly news? Tune in at 6 p.m. You get it. So it's just so disgusting. And you wonder why it is that the people say that they do not trust the mainstream media. Well, this is exhibits A, B, C, D, and so forth there. It is so unbelievably appalling. Just real quick, to your other question, the reason that Kamala Harris is having such a hard time answering these questions, I'm not sure how else to say it other than just to say it so bluntly. I do not think that she is a particularly smart person. I just don't think that she is someone who has a very sound grasp of public policy. I don't think that she understands the details of complicated domestic or foreign issues. Yes, she has steadily advanced up the ladder in her career, but I prefer to refer to that as failing upwards rather than advancing on genuine merit.
Yeah, look, I want to get to the polls in just a moment and look at if people are really starting to see through the facade, see through the hype, the buzz, you know, all the celebrity appearances, and now they're getting to see Kamala Harris without an auto cue, and it appears that people might be changing their minds. But let's look at how JD Vance is performing. He was brilliant in the debate against Tim Walz, and he's been out again taking aim at Kamala Harris's train wreck interviews. Here he is.
But she walks into The View, and you would think that would be an interview, and you know what they asked her? They gave her a softball, an easy question. Really propaganda. They said, can you name a single thing where you disagree with Joe Biden? You know what she says? I can't really think of anything off the top of my head. Now, in her defense, I'm not sure she could think of anything off the top of her head, whether about Joe Biden's policies or anything else.
Josh, this is what I suspect is happening right now. The more people watch JD Vance, the more they get to know JD Vance, the more that they like him. They respect him, they realise that he's quite smart, and the opposite is happening with Kamala Harris. The more that they see her, they realise there's not much there.
Yeah, look, Gabrielle, not to toot my own horn, but I guess I will briefly do it. I wrote an op-ed way back in March calling on Donald Trump to make JD Vance his vice presidential pick. I have known JD in a personal capacity for probably 5 or 6 years. I consider him a friend. And I was so happy that in that vice presidential debate, the world saw the JD Vance that I have gotten to know, which is a deeply, deeply thoughtful person who has a command of the material, who has done the reading, both proverbially and literally speaking. He understands public policy. He understands law. And he understands also the American people, as he famously wrote about in his best-selling memoir, Hillbilly Elegy, which turned into a Hollywood blockbuster film. You know, he really is all that. And in many ways, he represents the future of the Republican Party and the future of perhaps even just the Western, if not the outright global right, because he is just that articulate and I think understands the issues at that visceral level. And it is a very, very, very stark contrast to Kamala Harris. But, you know, her answer on The View, where she got this softball question, as JD has accurately described, that she basically, they say, would you change anything? And she says, no. Finally, she is actually embracing the fact that she is indeed the vice president of the United States, because she's been trying to have it both ways for a while. She's been trying to say that I'm ready to be a leader on day one come January 2025 because I have been in the corridors of power for the past 4 years. On the other hand, she's been trying to say that she's actually an outsider or a change agent. What you really can't have it both ways, can you? You basically have to pick one or the other. So it seems to me that on the home stretch, she actually is picking one. She's admitting that she's not a change agent, that she's not an outsider, because she has been there and she agrees with everything her boss has done for the past 4 years. Well, at a time that the American people say that America's on the right track only 28% of the time, it's roughly 35 to 40 points underwater on the right track, wrong track, binary metric. The American people have an approval rating of the Biden-Harris administration's handling of the economy, 20 points underwater, immigration like 25, 30 points underwater. I mean, if Kamala Harris wants to own that baggage, I say go for it. I mean, good luck with that. And it's one of the many reasons, frankly, why I continue to be cautiously optimistic that Donald Trump is actually going to win this election in a few weeks.
Yeah, Kamala Harris has let her secret out that she is the vice president of the United States. Let's look at the polling right now. The latest Reuters Ipsos poll has Kamala Harris leading Donald Trump by 3 percentage points, 46% to 43%. But let's look at the betting odds. It is an indicating factor of where we're heading in this election. Polymarket has Donald Trump ahead at 53.3% and Kamala Harris at 46.1%. And, you know, of course, the most important state in this election is Pennsylvania. And in a new poll by Insider Advantage, it has Trump leading in that swing state, 49 to 47%. So, Josh, what's your assessment of where things are at this point in time?
So the polling would show essentially a true toss-up. It's basically within the margin of error in all 7 of the key swing states. And those 7 swing states, to be clear, are the 4 Sunbelt swing states of Nevada, Arizona, Georgia, and North Carolina. And then you have the 3 Rust Belt swing states of Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, and Michigan. Donald Trump is all but assuredly going to win most, if not all, of those Sunbelt states. I think he's in very good shape in Arizona, Georgia. North Carolina is interesting because they just got whacked by this horrific Hurricane Helene. Who knows how that will impact the Postal Service, mail-in ballots and that. But nonetheless, he probably will be in good shape in North Carolina. Nevada could go either way, but he doesn't actually need Nevada. Republicans have not won Nevada at a presidential level since George W. Bush running for re-election back in 2004. So it really does come down to the Rust Belt states. And as you said, battleground Pennsylvania is probably the #1 state. It depends on the poll. Right now, it's truly a dead heat in Pennsylvania. He's actually up by a couple points in the latest Quinnipiac poll in both with Wisconsin and Michigan, which is interesting because most people, including myself, tend to think that Pennsylvania is probably his easiest state of those 3 Rust Belt battle states. I think he's going to win Pennsylvania. I think that he's actually going to win basically all of these swing states for multiple reasons. One is that at a fundamental 35,000-foot altitude level, I personally have seen no evidence whatsoever that pollsters here in the United States have actually fixed their methodological structural flaws that led them to so epically botch both 2016 and 2020. And there's some crosstabs that show evidence for the fact that they have not corrected for this. For example, right now it shows that Donald Trump is barely leading, if at all, the senior citizen vote, the 65 and up demographic. That's just totally wrong. Donald Trump, for the past presidential elections, has won that by a sizable gap, usually 10 points or more. So that suggests that at least older liberals are disproportionately answering pollsters' phones, and that older conservatives still have kind of the shy effect where they won't talk to pollsters, stuff like that. And then on the other hand, just real quick, in an election like this that is this close, it's almost always the case that the late-breaking, late-deciding swing state voters, people who go into the ballot box and they pray for guidance, they can't make up their minds, they almost always vote against the incumbent party because they end up just redounding to the fact that because they can't make up their mind, they're not happy with the people in power. Okay, let's change it up. Well, one person in this race actually is the change agent, and it's not the person who is currently the vice president of the United States, Kamala Harris.
We have heard from Donald Trump. He's taken aim at Joe Biden. Take a listen.
For the last week, I have to, when we talk about funny or sad, I think it's more sad than funny. Yeah. He has one ability I don't have. Yeah. He sleeps. He can sleep. This guy goes on a beach and he lays down on one of those, 6 ounce, they weigh 6 ounces and you can't lift it.
Josh, he has a point.
Yeah. So, it's interesting. The modern Democratic Party, which really came into its current manifestation with the election of Barack Obama in 2008, I like to refer to it as a coalition of aggrieved interests, a coalition of the oppressed, maybe you want to say it. And it's this very bizarre coalition of young people, millennials and Gen Z, probably young black men, really, or young black people just in general, above all, Hispanics, and then some white upper class PhDs, the limousine liberal types in San Francisco, Boston, New York City, places like that. And when you look at the current way that the Obama coalition is holding up, it's really not holding up, actually. So Donald Trump is currently winning a historic but a historic percentage of young black men, upwards potentially as up to 25%, which it sounds like nothing, but it's actually a very, very high margin. To give some context for that, Black Americans voted for Barack Obama at a 95-5 ratio. So if Trump can actually win 25% of young black men, that would be a tremendous victory. He's doing very good with the Hispanic vote. It would be the best performance for a Republican with Hispanic voters in at least 2 decades, possibly even longer than that. And he's within single digits when it comes to voters under the age of 35, when it comes to millennial and Gen Z voters, which would have been astounding to the 2008, 2012, or even the Hillary Clinton 2016 Democratic Party. So this Obama coalition is really starting to collapse before our eyes as the Democratic Party has gone so far down the rabbit hole of woke identity politics issues, all of these bizarre cultural totems, the climate fanaticism, the open borders, the gender ideology, critical race theory. No one really wants this. There's no actual appetite for this outside of the bowels of left-wing blue check social media. Rather, the people actually want answers to the bread and butter lifestyle questions: economy, inflation, crime, immigration. And what they see in Donald Trump and J.D. Vance is a ticket that is well-spoken and that has the proper solutions for those actual issues. So this election, Gabrielle, this election is actually about the issues. Again, I think that Donald Trump's going to win it.
Josh Hammer, it is so great to speak with you. Thank you so much for joining us on Power Hour.
Thank you so much.